In this video, we're going to learn about the graph of a function. You likely have already heard about graphing functions before in the past. We're just going to go over a few of the details to make sure you understand certain key concepts. First off, what is a graph of a function? So a function is just an f of x. It's a rule for assigning an output to any given input number x. We can draw a graph by taking all the points where the x value is the input and the y value is the output. That's how we draw a graph. And that means the same thing as saying y equals f of x. Now the domain of a function, the domain is all the x values that exist on your graph. So in your xy coordinate axis, x can be any number, but your graph is not going to be everywhere on your xy axis. It's going to be just some places. Wherever you have points, all those x values is your domain. For the range of a function, it's the exact same as domain, except it's all the y values on your graph. Similarly, the x-intercept are all the points on the graph that are also on the x-axis. They're going to be all the points whose y value is 0. And lastly, the y-intercept of the graph is any point where it's also on the y-axis, and these points will have an x value of 0. Now, if you have a nice rule like f of x equals x squared or something, you can draw out your graph and do details by that, but it's also important to be able to handle these questions even when you don't have a nice function equation, but you just have a picture drawn of the graph, like below. So here's a nice picture, a bunch of points on this graph. First thing it says is find the domain. So yes, x can be -4 right here, and it can be -3 right here, and so on. But you don't want to list just those numbers, because you see the graph, it moves continuously from one point to the next. That means every x value in between them is also included on the graph. And so if you look at the whole picture, the x values go all the way from -4 up to a +5. Every value in between there is somewhere on the graph. On the other hand, for the range, that's the y values. It looks like the lowest y value I see is -5. And every y value between there and 6, up at this point, those all exist somewhere on the graph. So therefore, -5 to 6 would be the range. For x-intercepts, we've got a point right here. Whoops. I'll choose yellow. We've got a point right here and right here. Those are two places where it crosses the x-axis. So we have -3, 0 as an x-intercept, and 1, 0 is also an x-intercept. On the other hand, if we want a y-intercept, that's where the y has to be 0, and that's this point right here. And there's always only going to be at most a single y-intercept for functions, because if you had more than one y-intercept, your graph would fail the vertical line test and it would not be a function. Since this video is only looking at graphs about functions, that cannot happen. So you can have more than one x-intercept, but you can only have one y-intercept.